Aloha, I'm Malia Zimmerman, and this is News Behind the News. The city wants to build a $5.2 billion rail and has actually already been under construction, but has had to halt construction. There's 2 lawsuits challenging the rail project, and I have with me today Cliff Slater with HonoluluTraffic.com, who's going to talk to us about the rail project and his lawsuit that he filed to help stop it. Cliff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Malia.
You've been on the show many times, but It's been a while.
That's right.
So thank you for coming back to give us an update.
Well, I thought I'd talk about the appeal that we filed, make sure everybody understood why we think we're going to prevail in the appeal and that the city will have to start over.
Well, let's start from maybe not the beginning, but give people an overview for people that haven't, of course the rail has been like the hottest topic in Hawaii, but
Sure.
For people that maybe haven't been following it or have just moved to Hawaii or watching this on the mainland, give us an overview of the project and why is it so, why are you challenging it in court?
Well, first off, it is over $5 billion, and of course these things normally incur cost overruns. Okay, 40% is not unusual. One in Puerto Rico was 100%. And so you have to be prepared for, rather than 5.2, you should be prepared for a $7 or $8 billion price tag, okay? And none of which, by the way, is covered by the federal government. So the federal government comes up with 1.5 billion, and we local taxpayers come up with the rest, okay? Now, considering that we're fighting for the odd million here or there to put the buses back in business, that really doesn't make any sense. So it's a huge amount of money. That's number one. Number two, it is incredibly visually intrusive. If you go onto our website, HonoluluTraffic.com, and there in the top left-hand corner is a picture of the rail line going along Nimitz. It was done by the American Institute of Architects, and it's the station at the foot of Bishop Street on Nimitz. You can click on that, and you get a much larger view of it, and you can see how absolutely horrible that thing is. I mean, it's the ugliest thing around. As a matter of fact, the Outdoor Circle said this was the greatest threat to Hawaii's environment in the past 100 years.
Now, for people that maybe haven't seen a picture and haven't gone onto HonoluluTraffic.com yet, it's basically an elevated steel-on-steel rail system.
Right.
And so it's not at grade, it's not underground, it's above ground.
Right. Where we're talking about, the downtown station, the main pillars are 8 feet in diameter. Now, when you figure that you've got to kind of pace that out to get your arms around what an 8 feet diameter pillar is. 8'6" is the standard for a city bus. Okay, so we're talking about something that is 6 inches narrower than a city bus. Huge thing. Okay, and that's 35 feet up in the air, and then the station is above that. Okay, and by the time it finishes, you're up about 65 or 70 feet. Above street level. So it's an enormous complex, sprawls all over the place.
And it comes from Kapolei on the west side of Oahu for 20 miles passing through downtown to Ala Moana Center, through Chinatown, through the historic district, through the waterfront.
And along the waterfront. That's the one part that everybody objects to, is it coming along the waterfront. Massive concrete wall there. And of course, it doesn't go to Kapolei proper. It starts off in East Kapolei, which is 6.5 miles short of where the rail line was supposed to be in the first place.
Now, one of the things that is always interesting to hear about is before Mayor Mufi Hanneman was mayor, now this was 2 mayors ago, he was the one that drove through the rail projects to get it approved, but before him there was Jeremy Harris, who was our mayor.
That's right.
And he wanted a bus rapid transit system.
That's right.
And so that was basically an express bus that went, there was an out-town portion, an in-town portion, and there was some kind of study that said that was the best solution.
Well, the environmental impact statement, which was conducted by both the city and Parsons Brinckerhoff and approved by the Federal Transit Administration, said that clearly the the BRT program, bus rapid transit, using the zipper lane, okay, and an afternoon zipper lane, which we don't have at the moment, but we will, which is planned to be built shortly. But using that the bus rapid transit plan, in their view, and in the view of the overwhelming number of people who attended the public hearings, that the BRT was preferable to the rail line, okay? And the rail line being thought about was somewhat similar to what they finished up proposing.
So Jeremy Harris was the mayor,
Right.
up for 10 years. He leaves office to run, well, I think he was going to run for governor, but then didn't. But he termed out. And then immediately after Mufi Hanneman got elected, then the BRT was put aside.
That's right.
And there
In
was
fact,
a $10 million study on it.
That's right. Almost the first thing that Murphy did was to make the political decision to end the BRT program. This wasn't a decision based on merit. This was strictly a political decision.
Now, there were some people that were concerned about, for example, the outer town part of the BRT was very well received by everyone. There was some concern about the in-town portion of the BRT being making too much congestion the way they had set it up. Is that right?
If I got to understate the problems with it, is that it was nuts. Okay, just you have to think about it this way: they wanted to take 2 lanes out of the center of Ala Moana, Nimitz, okay, to run these buses exclusively. And in other words, no other traffic would be on these. Okay?
And it's already a congested corridor.
Yes. In addition, the parallel highway, Capilano Boulevard, okay, would be also have 2 lanes taken out of the center of it.
And that's already a narrow road as well.
That's right.
Relatively
but it does
speaking.
have the advantage of having 4 lanes going into town in the morning. But if they'd put taken out the 2 lanes, then you would have only had 2 lanes going in.
So basically, the outer town portion of the BRT was not controversial. The in-town portion was, but there's
That's
ways
right.
to fix it.
Yeah. We were very much in favor of what they called the regional, which was coming into town.
Yeah.
And we were very much against the massive traffic congestion it was going to cause. At the time, Panos Provodoros was independent, had not joined our organization. He did a study for the Hawaii Transportation Association looking at the congestion impacts, especially on Kapiolani Boulevard, because at that point, the station would be the station for Ala Moana Center would be in the middle of the road, okay, and the major big store down the street, I forgot the name, but anyway, they were opening up.
Macy's or?
No,
Not at all.
the food.
The Hard Rock
blank.
Cafe?
No,
Oh, okay,
blank.
that's okay.
But you can't to get from there to Ala Moana Center, you had to cross over Kapiolani Boulevard, and you see a huge amount of traffic that there is going back and forth today.
Yeah.
If you add in there this exclusive thing with a station in the middle of the street, okay, where the buses load and unload, okay, and that plus you've got this cross street traffic. It was just a nightmare, okay, and Panos convinced the people in the transportation business this was a very bad thing, and then they funded a lawsuit to prevent the city and the FTA from putting that part in. But that was really irrelevant. All the time savings that this program offered was in the regional. They promised a 25-minute time savings from Kapolei proper to downtown, and this whole nightmare program that they offered a 1.3-minute savings from downtown to Waikiki. Okay, I mean it was crazy.
So I bring that up because some people have said, well, you opposed the BRT, and now you're opposing the rail. But actually, it was just the one portion of the BRT. You're supportive of the other.
Right.
And how much was the BRT that you still support? Would that have costed back then to establish compared to the rail?
About 10%.
10%.
Yeah, it's a fraction of the cost.
And it would have been, in terms of getting people into town, just as fast or just as quick?
In fact, we have some of the routes now. You know, the Route C, for example, the Country Express Bus C is a BRT program. When that leaves Couple Lake Transit Center and comes to downtown, it takes less today. Well, using the zipper lane again, it takes less time today than the rail will take. So, you know, it gives us a great example of what can be achieved with BRT at a tiny fraction.
And also the part of it is once you build the rail, steel on steel, elevated steel on steel, it's locked in terms of the route. You can't really change it. But with the BRT, you can kind of move buses around as needed, right?
That's right. You can, and in fact, the costs of taking the thing down is 720 of these pillars that I was talking about earlier. 720 of them. You know the amount of money it would take to get rid of those is just incredible.
So we're talking about main reasons for opposition: and huge amounts of money, destruction to environment, better systems available out there, and things like that.
That's right. Which, incidentally, was exactly the same things that they quoted as being the disadvantages of the rail. There were the disadvantages were so egregious, okay, that's why the BRT was preferable. The cost, the visual intrusiveness, the divisiveness to communities. I mean, they're right in there, and.
Yeah, and there's no question that the rail is like you said, a political decision because it's appealing to certain unions and certain places and diverting a whole lot of money to those particular unions,
right.
but also actually to out of state because you're looking at rail cars that are coming in from somewhere else that aren't being built here. Steel that's not being built here. We don't manufacture steel. So a lot of things we don't actually manufacture. We're sending our money out of state and bringing it in. So it's also an economic impact.
Yes, it's and there's a negative economic impact in the sense that Professor
Panos?
No, Panos. The economics professor at UH. He's calculated that we've lost about 1,000 jobs due to the 0.5% increase. Because most people look upon the 0.5% as being a sales tax, and it's not a sales tax.
Right.
Okay, it's an excise tax, which gathers about 3 times as much money as a sales tax because of the pyramiding.
Right. A lot of people don't understand that we've talked about this many times on our show, but run into people all the time. Even people who do tax studies that don't know, we don't have a sales tax here in Hawaii.
That's right.
We have a general excise tax, which is compounds at every level of sale and every level of transaction.
Yep, and Professor James Rumerset was the one that did the study on how many jobs are lost, and that's when you consider that there may possibly not be as many as 1,000 jobs on the average needed for this program. They started construction, okay, and they started construction with 350 people. So.
And it's the same 350 people that basically move from section to section, not a whole bunch of new people that are added at each level.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, okay, so we understand why Honolulu Traffic and several other plaintiffs joined in, but tell us about the lawsuit. When it was filed, and it was filed in federal court. Right. But tell us about the plaintiffs.
In May 11th, 2010, we filed, and the plaintiffs, former Governor Cayetano, Judge Walter Heen, UH Law Professor Randy Roth, Senator Sam Sloan's Small Business Foundation.
Yep.
And then Outdoor Circle, Hawaii's 1,000 Friends. We've got a full spectrum of all philosophical thought about government in our plaintiffs group.
Because you have Walter Heen, who is the head of the Democratic Party,
Right.
and a federal and state judge.
Yes.
You have Ben Cayetano, who is the governor and a
Yes.
lawyer. You have Randy Roth, the UH professor who you mentioned, who is known for his challenging powers that be in Hawaii, that all through his career he's done that.
Yes.
And he's an author of the Broken Trust book.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Outdoor Circle, and also you have Hawaii's Thousand Friends, but Dr. Michael Uechi,
Yes.
who's been active in the rail movement as well.
That's
So,
right.
and then you have the small business groups that are represented through the Small Business Hawaii Education Foundation.
Right, and also some of those are also members of Honolulu Traffic, and,
Yeah.
which is of course a plaintiff, and as am I personally.
So you had to file this lawsuit using your own money that you raised
Right.
through these groups and through
Not-
your
yes,
own
not-
money as
not
well.
my own money.
Not
That's
your own
another-
money, but you helped raise money through these different
Yes.
groups and fundraisers and things like that.
Yes, and we have raised, at this point, I think we raised about $800,000, and we're looking at, near the end now, maybe another $60,000, $80,000, and then we should be through with this.
So what happened was, in terms of there was all the judges in Hawaii, all the federal judges, I think there were 7 of them,
That's right.
recused themselves, right?
Yes.
Because they thought they all had a conflict. 6 of whom, because they signed a letter that said they didn't want the rail coming so close to the federal building.
That's right.
And so, and the 7th, I think, was Judge Ezra, and he recused himself as well, and now
That's right.
he works in the mainland. But, so you have a Ninth Circuit Court Judge, Wallace Tashima, come to Hawaii to oversee the proceedings. And I think you put up 23 challenges in terms of the rail. I'm not sure if you call them challenges or
Claims.
Against the project. So tell us about that, and in terms of what was the outcome, and why have you decided to appeal the ruling?
Well, the judge found for us in three of the claims, which has put a halt on any further work on the 4th segment, and of course in the Hawaii suit brought by Paulette Kalikini, that one halted the thing until they have completed and documented the full length of the route for the architecturally inventory survey for burial sites, which the city says they should be ready to start construction again in September. Okay, so in our appeal, what we asked the court was Ninth Circuit Court, okay. Court of Appeals, we asked them for the ability to bring that forward and expedite the process and the hearing so that we could have a decision before the city could start construction again. The city objected to that. They'd filed about 3 objections, okay, and then at the time we were filing our request, and I was astonished that within less than 2 weeks of when we filed the request to the Ninth Circuit, we got a response. They dismissed all the city's claims, granted our request, and they set up a timetable which concludes in the week of August the 12th. And then sometime after that they'll make their decision. But we have things getting filed back and forth, but they've already made it clear they're not putting up with any delays, which the city's been. The reason it's taking this long, we always thought that this would have been over at the end of the suit was filed in 2011. We thought we'd be over, and our attorneys thought it would be over by the end of that year. And the city did everything in the book to delay the process. What they wanted to do is they thought if they could build about 5-8 miles of the rail line, that there would be no way of stopping them. So fortunately, the Paulette Kalikini prevailed. That was a big help. And also the judge's partial ruling in our favor, that helped. But the major thing what we're really appealing against is the fact that this project, if done honestly, if there is an honest appraisal of the alternatives, and the statute says you have to have a rigorous exploration of the alternatives, which they didn't do at all. You know, this 2003 final EIS, which found that the BRT program was superior to rail, and everybody agreed, including the FTA and the city, and they said that the public agreed. Okay, the moment Murphy got into office, he canceled the program, okay, and put in rail. And when about 10 months later they came up with their program of work of the alternatives they were going to look at, this was not mentioned and has not been mentioned as an alternative since.
And that was the same company that's doing the alternatives for the city under Harris, Mayor Harris, that also did it under Mayor Mufi Hanneman. So it's basically like, I guess it seems as from the outside as if whatever the person in power wants, that's how they're going to put their study out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we don't understand how the FTA can, at one moment, in 2003, middle of 2003, say, you know, this is we agree with this is superior to the bus, and 18 months later, sign off and say
something else is superior to the bus. Yeah,
you know,
right.
It's just it's crazy.
Right. So you've kind of looked at this in terms of you've gone to federal court. In the meantime, just for people that didn't follow the Paulette Kalikini story, she's a native Hawaiian who has her ancestors buried in Kaka'ako.
That's right.
And other areas throughout the island, and she was concerned, like other Native Hawaiians, that if you bring the rail through, you're going to basically be putting it on the gravesite.
Yeah.
And so they wanted the entire architectural inventory survey to be done along the 20-mile route before starting, rather than doing it in segments, because the city was saying, oh no, we can do this segment and then build the rail. This segment and build rail. But you can't really change, it's not so flexible that you can just make the rail zip around burial sites.
Well, it's even more than that. The whole idea of when you do a survey of the route, both under federal law and the state law, the whole idea is to use that information to decide whether you want to build the project at all. Because it's what, you know, if you build the thing halfway down and then you find, as we would expect them to find, a raft of burial sites in the fourth segment, but you've got the thing halfway built, you're stumped. You cannot change the route. Okay, you cannot use another alternative mode. You've got to carry on with and just plow through all the graves. So the value of it is to look at what the impact on historic buildings, which includes historic views. You know, if you look at what the architects did downtown to provide that view down Bishop Street, and now they intend to put this concrete wall up at the end, it negates all their efforts.
Which I guess is why the architects came out opposing the rail.
Oh, yes, yes.
At least the elevated rail.
Yes.
They wanted I think, ground.
Oh, yeah, no,
ground system.
They'd be happy with a ground system. I think they'd settle for the BRT, but what they don't want is the elevated rail. And you know, when you've got the kind of statements that the Outdoor Circle have made, and the Hawaii's Thousand Friends, it's, you know, this is, we're all in agreement. I mean, it doesn't matter what, and the only people who are in favor of it, frankly, are either A, people who are going to make money off of it, okay, and B, people who are politically beholden to the people who are going to make money off of it, okay, and C, those in the general public who really don't understand what this thing is all about. For example, 45% of the people, according to Star Advertiser poll, either do not know or believe that the rail transit would improve traffic congestion. Okay, instead of the truth, which the city has stated and buried in the documents, is that traffic congestion with rail in the future will be worse than it is today. And people have to understand that there would be a 1.3% difference between doing nothing or building rail in the amount of automobile traffic on the road. That's, it's bizarre
Very
for
small
that kind
amount
of
for
money.
that kind of money.
Yeah, and I've seen people, when I've been giving a talk, I see people get visibly angry and they're in disbelief, and they're saying, you've got to be kidding. And I have to show them the data. You've got to be kidding that they want to spend $5 billion and the traffic's going to finish up being worse? It's that kind of thing. There would be clearly an overwhelming opposition if people knew, or if the media had told the people that traffic congestion would be worse.
Well, the interesting thing is, you have the data. You've said it many times over. For some reason, it doesn't get out there. But the city itself has said things, depending on the administration, but has gone from saying it's going to improve traffic to now their claim is that, and at one time they said it was going to help the environment, and at one time they said it's going to create jobs. But it went from improving traffic to this whole span until the end with saying, well, it's going to boost the economy and create jobs. But your groups have countered that every step of the way.
Yes.
With different
for example,
reports.
if you just the idea of energy savings is just pure shibai. If you look at the average new rail line, not talking about New York, which is a different situation, but the average new rail line has energy usage which is 4,000 BTUs a passenger mile. Okay, that's the statistic. Our bus system is half of that. The Honolulu bus system is one of the most energy efficient in the nation, and it's half that of the average new rail line. So,
and we didn't even get into it. We'd only have a few seconds left, but we didn't even get into how the rail is going to impact bus funding potentially, and handy van funding, and funding for all kinds of things that the cities need.
Funding for everything will be affected.
And anybody who wants to know about that can watch the show we just did with Ann Kobayashi, Councilwoman Ann Kobayashi, who's the budget chair of the council.
Yeah.
She came in and detailed that information. So definitely a lot to it. But for people that want to get involved with your lawsuit supporting you, or just get more information on the rail and things we talked about today, they can go. Tell us again about your website.
HonoluluTraffic.com, and they can see where we stand on the lawsuit, and any information that they don't find there, because it's a very full website.
Thousands and thousands of pages of documents. I know.
That's
I
right.
looked at it. Yep.
And just email us anything that anybody doesn't understand. Just please email us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Cliff, for coming on the show again, and for all your time and for all your passion and trying to make Honolulu a better place to live. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This has been News Behind the News. Aloha.